The sky was still dark with smoke. The air smelled like fire, blood, and death. King's Landing was no longer a city, it was ashes. Buildings were gone, streets were full of burnt bodies, and the Red Keep stood like a broken crown above the ruins. Daenerys had taken the city, but not the way Jon Snow hoped. She came as a dragon, not a queen. Jon walked through the broken streets with heavy steps. His armor was stained, not with his enemy's blood, but with the guilt of watching innocent people die. Children, mothers, old men. They screamed while Drogon flew over them, burning everything. He didn't say a word when Grey Worm killed surrendered soldiers. He didn't stop Daenerys when she gave that terrifying speech, talking about liberating more cities. But now, the weight of it all crushed his heart. And then came the raven. It flew from the north, straight from Winterfell. It had Robb Stark's seal. Jon opened the letter with shaking hands. He hadn't seen Robb since he left for the Wall years ago. He thought Robb died at the Twins, at that cursed wedding. But the letter told a different story. I survived, brother. The North stands. I know what Daenerys did. I know what she is becoming. We can't let this continue. I'm coming south. Meet me near the Godswood outside the city. We'll talk. Jon couldn't believe it. Robb alive? It felt like a dream. But something deep inside him, some part of the old Jon believed it, the same way he always trusted the Stark blood in his veins. He left the city that night. Alone. No guards, no whispers. He didn't tell Daenerys, didn't tell Tyrion, or Arya, or even Davos. He rode quietly, like a ghost in the ashes. The Godswood near King's Landing was nothing like Winterfell's. The trees here were thin, the leaves dry and brittle, but the old red face of the weirwood still stood, watching all. And beneath it stood Robb. Older, wiser. A long scar ran down his face. His eyes weren't full of fire like before, but something deeper. Pain, experience. "Jon," he said. Jon stepped down from his horse. For a long second, they just stared at each other. Then came the hug, strong, fierce, like brothers who lost everything but still had each other. "You're alive," Jon whispered. "They tried to kill me," Robb said. "Walder Frey betrayed us, but I escaped with a few loyal men. I've been in the north, rebuilding, waiting." Jon nodded slowly. "You heard what happened." "I saw it," Robb said. "Ravens fly fast. News flies faster. A queen who burns children isn't a queen. She's a tyrant." Jon looked away. "She wasn't always like this." "They never are," Robb said coldly. "Madness doesn't knock. It breaks down the door." Silence filled the grove. "I love her," Jon finally said, voice low. "I know," Robb replied. "That's why I came. Because love can blind you, Jon. It blinded Father. It blinded me once. Don't let it destroy you." Jon clenched his fists. "She wants to take more cities. Yara says the Iron Islands are next, then Dawn. She says it's all in the name of freedom." Robb stepped closer. "Freedom with fire? You saw the ashes. That's not peace. That's fear." Jon looked at the sky. "What do we do?" "We stop her," Robb said, calm and certain. Jon's eyes narrowed. "You mean—" Robb nodded. "Yes, we kill the dragon before it burns the world." Jon turned away, his heart torn in two. "I don't know if I can," he whispered. "Then I will," Robb said. Jon looked at him. The brother he once followed, now standing like a king again, but colder, harder. "You would kill her?" Jon asked. "I would do what needs to be done," Robb answered. That night, Jon sat under the weirwood, staring into the red face, praying for answers, praying for peace. But the gods were silent, and Daenerys, she was already planning her next war. The next morning, sunlight broke through the smoke like golden swords stabbing the sky. But it didn't bring warmth, only more shadows. Jon and Robb sat across a small campfire, sharing bread and silence. The crackling fire between them was the only sound for a while. Jon stared into the flames. She trusts me. Even now, she thinks I'm hers. Robb wiped ash from his armor. That's your weapon. Use it. Jon looked at him, troubled. I'm not a spy, Robb. No, Robb said calmly. You're a Stark, and the world needs a Stark right now, not a loyal lover blinded by dragonfire. Jon stood up, walking to the edge of the trees. From there, he could see a bit of the city walls, the smoke still curled up like dying breath. Somewhere in there, Daenerys sat on the throne of bones she made for herself. She believes it was mercy, Jon muttered. She thinks she saved them from their chains. Robb joined him. And she became the new chains. Fire and blood, they were never just words. They're a warning. Jon turned. She has Drogon. You've never seen it, Robb. It's not a beast, it's a god in the shape of a monster. No army can stop it. Robb gave a small smile. Good thing we're not using an army. Jon frowned. Then what? I brought someone with me, someone who knows how to deal with dragons. Jon raised an eyebrow. Who? A deep growl echoed behind them. Jon spun around, hand on his sword until he saw the white fur. Ghost stepped out of the trees, his red eyes glowing, growling, low but friendly. Behind him came another figure, tall, wearing a dark cloak with a hood. The figure removed the hood, and Jon stepped back in shock. Arya. Thought you'd need more than just swords, she said, smirking. Arya? Jon breathed. You came with him? She nodded. The North remembers, Jon. It remembers fire, it remembers betrayal, and it remembers who protects it. But you said, Jon began. I lied, she cut him off with a shrug. Been doing it a lot lately. Keeps people alive. Robb nodded at her. She's been tracking dragons. Knows their habits, weaknesses. Jon looked between the two of them, stunned. You're serious? You really want to do this? You're planning to kill Daenerys? Arya's face turned hard. She's already dead. She just doesn't know it yet. Jon felt his breath catch in his throat. It was real now. No more silent guilt. No more doubts. This was a plan. A rebellion. She saved me, he whispered. She also destroyed thousands, Arya shot back. You think one life saved makes up for what she did to that city? Jon closed his eyes. I swore myself to her, he said, quieter now. Robb stepped close. And I swore myself to the North, to our people. I failed once, I won't fail again. There was a rustle in the trees. A man emerged, tall, lean, with dark eyes and a dagger at his belt. He gave a small nod to Robb. Varys was right, the man said. She's not the breaker of chains anymore. She's the maker of graves. Jon turned slowly. Who are you? The man bowed slightly. A friend of the realm, a whisper with teeth. You can call me Rook. Arya muttered. He's the one who gave us Daenerys' next moves. She's leaving for the Iron Islands in 3 days, Rook said. Drogon flies at night. That's when she's weakest. That's when you act. Jon looked at them all, Robb, Arya, Ghost, and this stranger from the shadows. They were all ready to take down the Queen of Ashes. But Jon's heart was a battlefield. She believes in me, he said again, trying to convince himself. Robb placed a hand on his shoulder. Then make her believe one last time. That night, Jon returned to the Red Keep. The ruined halls whispered around him, the marble was blackened, the banners half-burned. Soldiers moved like ghosts, unsure if they were guarding a city or a graveyard. Every face was hollow-eyed. Every step echoed the screams they'd heard just days ago. And yet, there she was. Daenerys, standing in the great hall beneath the melted throne. Her silver hair caught the candlelight. Drogon rested just outside, a sleeping mountain of death. She wore no crown, only a simple black dress that flowed behind her like shadow. When she saw Jon, her face lit up with warmth, as if none of it had happened. "You came back," she said softly. He nodded, trying to keep the storm inside from showing. "Always." She walked toward him slowly. "I've missed you. The city is ours. The people are free." Jon glanced out the broken window. "Is that what this is?" Daenerys' smile faltered. "I know what you're thinking. I saw your face. But they had to see strength, Jon. They had to see what happens to those who stand in the way of peace." Jon swallowed. "And if they kneel?" "They live," she said simply, "until they resist again." He stepped closer, voice low. "And what about the North? Will they kneel?" Daenerys' eyes turned cold for a second, just a flicker, but Jon saw it. "They will if you ask them to." Jon looked away. Her warmth was there, but behind it was something else, something dangerous. "You once said you wanted to break the wheel," he whispered, "but now you sit on the ashes of what you broke." Daenerys moved to him, placing a hand on his chest. "This is just the beginning. With you by my side, we can make a better world. No more tyrants, no more chains." Her hand rose to his face. "I love you, Jon." He froze. Her eyes searched his. She meant it, or she believed she did. And maybe a part of him still loved her too. But then he remembered the little girl, the one burned near the fountain, the crying mother with her child still smoking in her arms. He remembered Arya's voice, Robb's eyes, the silence in the godswood. He stepped back. "I need to think," he said. Daenerys' gaze tightened. "You're afraid." "I'm tired," he replied. She nodded slowly. "Rest then. Tomorrow we leave. The Iron Islands wait. The world waits." Jon turned and walked away, feeling her eyes burning into his back. Every step felt like a lie. Outside the walls, Robb and Arya waited. Ghost stood near the tree line, alert. Rook was drawing something in the dirt, a plan. Jon returned at dawn. "She trusts me," he said. Robb stood. "Then we use that. Tonight." Arya stepped forward, tightening the straps on her knives. "We can't wait for her to march again. Every day we wait, more die." Jon nodded. "She sleeps near Drogon. He's the real threat." "That's my part," Arya said. "You get close. Distract her. Keep her away from the dragon just long enough." "And if I fail?" Jon asked. Robb looked him dead in the eye. "Then the world burns." That evening, Jon walked the same ruined halls once more, this time with a blade under his cloak and betrayal behind his ribs. Every breath felt heavy. Every guard he passed might be the last man to see him alive. Daenerys stood on a balcony overlooking the city, her hair dancing in the wind. Drogon lay behind her, his breath rising like smoke from a volcano. "You came," she said. "I needed to see you," Jon answered. She smiled. "Look at it, Jon, all of it. Ours. The world can be reborn." He stood beside her, inches away. His hand moved slowly, fingers brushing the handle of his dagger beneath the cloak. But her voice stopped him. "Would you ever betray me?" she asked suddenly, turning to him. Jon froze. Her eyes were sharp now, not loving but searching, measuring. He forced himself to breathe. "Never." She looked at him for a long moment. "I hope that's true," she whispered. Behind them, in the darkness, Arya moved like a shadow toward Drogon's sleeping body, a small glass vial in her hand. One drop could paralyze a dragon. But dragons are not easy to trick. Drogon's eye opened. Drogon's golden eye opened wide in the dark. For a heartbeat, the world was still. Then came the growl, a low, ancient sound, like a volcano remembering how to erupt. His nostrils flared, catching a scent he didn't know, but instantly didn't trust. His wings shifted, massive and heavy, pulling dust into the air. Arya froze. She was less than 10 steps away, crouched behind a fallen pillar, the vial clutched in her fingers. One drop, just one drop into the meat pile meant for Drogon's supper, and it would have been enough to numb the beast long enough for Jon to do what needed to be done. But she was too late. The dragon was awake, and now it was looking right at her. Arya slid back into the shadows, every inch of her body still, her breath caught in her throat. She had survived assassins, kings, and the Night King himself. But even she knew there was no killing Drogon, only delaying him, distracting him. And that job wasn't hers anymore. Up on the balcony, Jon felt the vibration before he heard it, the thud of wings shifting, the low rumble rising through the stone. Daenerys turned sharply. "Drogon!" Jon's heart nearly stopped. She knows. "Something's wrong," she said, already walking. Jon grabbed her arm. "Wait. Maybe it's nothing." She jerked away, her eyes flashing. "You think I don't know my dragon?" Jon tried again. "It's late, Daenerys. Let the guards." She pulled free and turned toward the stairs, her voice rising. "He only wakes like that when he smells blood." Jon followed, heart pounding. She's walking straight into the trap, or maybe Arya is already dead. As they reached the hall, the sound of shouting echoed up one of the Unsullied, yelling in Valyrian, then another scream louder, sharper, full of terror. Jon broke into a run. When he reached the courtyard, he saw chaos. Arya was gone. Drogon was fully awake now, wings spread, tail lashing. Soldiers backed away, unsure whether to attack or pray. One body already lay smoking on the stones, burned beyond recognition. Daenerys stepped into the courtyard, arms out. "Drogon, it's me." The dragon lowered his head slightly, recognizing her, but still hissed. Something was wrong. He smelled danger. He smelled Stark. Daenerys turned on Jon. "You brought someone here." "I didn't," Jon lied quickly. "You're lying," she said, her voice suddenly razor-sharp. "Drogon doesn't wake for ghosts." "I came alone," Jon insisted, stepping toward her. "I would never hurt you." For a second, she hesitated. And then Arya dropped down from the shadows above, landing silently behind Daenerys with a blade drawn. Daenerys spun fast, almost too fast. The two women locked eyes. "You," Daenerys whispered. "I saw you in the crowd. The day of the fire." Arya didn't blink. "I saw you too, killing mothers and children." The Unsullied raised their spears, but before they could move, Robb Stark stepped out of the gate, sword in hand, ghost at his side, snarling. Daenerys stared, stunned. "Robb Stark?" "Alive," Robb said grimly. "Unlike the people in your city." "This is treason," she hissed. "All of you." "This is justice," Arya snapped. Drogon reared up, sensing the tension, ready to strike. And in that moment, Jon stepped between them all, shouting, "Stop!" Everyone froze. He looked at Daenerys, then at Robb, then at the soldiers. His voice broke. "It doesn't have to end like this." Daenerys looked at him, eyes wide with betrayal. "You stood beside me. You kissed me. You said you loved me." "I did," Jon said quietly. "But love is not blind anymore. Not after what you did. Not after what you became." Her face broke rage and heartbreak in equal measure. "You would choose them over me?" "I would choose the living over the dead," he said, "and you buried too many already." She stepped forward, face trembling. "I am the only one who can fix this world. You all want to chain it back. I want to set it free." Arya raised her blade. But Jon held out his hand. "Don't," he said. "Let me." Robb nodded. Arya lowered the knife. Jon walked toward Daenerys slowly, carefully, like approaching a wounded animal. "Please," he whispered, "let it end. We can leave this city. We can go far away. You don't need the throne." "I am the throne," Daenerys said, teeth clenched. Then she whispered, "Dracarys." But Drogon didn't move. He looked at Jon. He looked at Daenerys. "Then," he growled, low and uncertain. Jon looked him in the eye. "Don't," he whispered. And for the first time, the dragon hesitated. But Daenerys didn't. She drew a hidden dagger from her sleeve and lunged. Daenerys moved like a flame, fast, wild, and full of fury. Jon saw the glint of the dagger too late. She wasn't aiming for Robb, not Arya, not even Drogon. She was aiming for him. The blade slashed forward, aimed for his chest. Jon grabbed her wrist mid-air. The dagger's tip stopped an inch from his heart, trembling between them. Her face twisted with rage and pain, her eyes brimming with tears. "You betrayed me," she screamed. "You were mine." Jon's voice broke as he whispered, "You were never supposed to become this." They struggled in silence, faces inches apart. Her strength surprised him, driven by fury and heartbreak. She pushed harder, and the blade slid just barely into his skin, drawing a thin line of blood. His free hand went to his own dagger, hidden under his cloak. He didn't want to use it. He didn't want it to end like this. But he had no choice. "I'm sorry," he said, his voice shaking. Then he drove his dagger into her side. She gasped, one short, sharp breath. Her eyes widened in shock as the blade sank in. Her strength failed instantly. The dagger in her hand clattered to the ground. Her fingers clutched at Jon's chest, not to hurt, but to hold. "Jon," she whispered, her voice small and breaking, "we could have changed everything." He caught her as she fell. "I know," he said softly, "but not like this." Her head rested against his shoulder, silver hair stained with red. Her breathing slowed, then stopped. Just like that, it was over. Silence swallowed the courtyard. The soldiers didn't move. Drogon lifted his massive head and let out a low, aching sound, not a roar, a cry, a sound of mourning that echoed through the ruined city like thunder from a broken god. Then he stood. Jon gently laid Daenerys on the stone floor. He turned toward Drogon, expecting fire. Robb and Arya stepped forward, weapons ready. Even Ghost growled low, prepared to lunge if needed. But Drogon didn't attack. He stepped forward, his eyes locked on Jon. Smoke curled from his nostrils, heat pulsing from his chest. Jon dropped his dagger and opened his arms. "If you must burn someone," he whispered, "burn me." But Drogon did something no one expected. He looked down at Daenerys' lifeless body, then turned his head toward the Iron Throne in the distance. And with a roar of fury and pain, he unleashed his fire. A wall of flame erupted from his mouth and tore through the Red Keep. It hit the throne, melting it into a pool of glowing metal, the ancient swords bending, twisting, and collapsing. Every symbol of conquest, every dream of rule, it all turned to ash. Then Drogon roared one last time, loud enough to shake the heavens. He scooped Daenerys' body into his claws, spread his wings wide, and flew into the sky, disappearing into the clouds. Gone. For a long time, no one spoke. Jon stood in the courtyard, blood drying on his hands. Robb approached slowly, his eyes heavy. "She's gone," Jon said. "It's done." "No," Robb said. "It's just begun." Later, the lords of Westeros gathered again, this time not in fire but silence. Sansa came from Winterfell, Gendry from Storm's End, Sam from Old Town, Yara from the Iron Islands. Tyrion, freed from his cell, stood beside the Stark brothers. Jon sat alone. Some called him a murderer, others a hero, but he didn't argue either way. Tyrion raised his voice. He killed the queen to save the realm. That much is true. But what should we do with him now? Whispers followed. Some said exile, others said death. Then Robb spoke, voice calm and clear. Jon Snow took no joy in what he did. He didn't fight for power, he fought for peace. And now, peace must decide his fate. Silence. Until Sansa stood. I will not see my brother executed for saving the world from madness. Arya added, and I won't see him chained again. Jon looked at them, emotion in his eyes. I did what I had to, but I'll carry it forever. If exile is the price, I'll pay it. Tyrion nodded slowly. Then let him go. Let him return to the north, to the wall, to where it all began. No one argued, and so it was done. Jon Snow, the last Targaryen and the last man to kill a queen, left King's Landing in silence. No banners, no cheers, only snow falling gently on his cloak. He rode north, beyond the wall once more. And this time, he didn't look back. The snows of the north felt colder now. Jon rode past the shattered remains of the wall, accompanied only by Ghost and a handful of silent rangers. No banners, no songs, no fanfare. The wall didn't welcome him home, it reminded him of who he had become. A brother once. A bastard always. A kinslayer now. Ghost stayed close, his eyes ever watchful. Jon found some comfort in the direwolf's presence, but the guilt inside him had grown its own claws. Every time he closed his eyes, he saw her. Daenerys. Not the queen draped in fire, but the woman he once held in the dark. The dream of peace they whispered about under northern skies. It was all ash now, even in his memory. He reached Castle Black after 7 days. The gates opened slowly. Men in black watched from the ramparts, some old faces, some new. Most looked at him with a mix of fear and curiosity. None called him Lord, Commander. Not yet. Inside, Jon was met by an old man, with a crooked back and white in his beard. Jon Snow, he said, nodding once. I never thought I'd see you again. Neither did I, Jon replied quietly. They said little else. There wasn't much to say. Jon wasn't sent north as a leader this time. He was sent as punishment, a compromise for a divided realm. But something strange had happened in the north, while the south played its game of thrones. The free folk had returned. Thousands. Coming down from the true north, seeking safety, shelter, and justice. They didn't forget who helped them fight the Night King, who gave them food when they had none, who stood by them when everyone else closed their gates. Jon. Tormund Giantsbane waited for him near the fire that night. The wildling leader gave a crooked smile, clapping Jon on the back. You've got more titles now, eh? He chuckled. Queenslayer, Crow King, Ghost Whisperer. Jon didn't smile. Tormund leaned in. You did what none of us could. You stopped the dragon before the world burned. I loved her, Jon said flatly. Doesn't mean she wasn't turning into something worse, Tormund muttered. The dead came with cold before. This time they came with fire. Jon looked into the flames. I didn't come back to lead. No, Tormund said. But they'll follow you anyway. Back in King's Landing, the city was rebuilding slowly. The ash was gone, but the scars ran deep. The small council was forming again. Tyrion sat at its center, not as hand, but as a voice of reason. Beside him sat Samwell Tarly, now Grand Maester. Brienne of Tarth took her place as commander of the King's Guard, and at the high seat of the council, Robb Stark, the new Warden of the South. Robb refused the Iron Throne. He saw what it did to men, to women, to families. The council agreed to form a new structure, each kingdom ruling itself, bound by alliance, not by fear. But Robb had more than politics on his mind. A raven arrived that morning. From the Vale, it bore news of discontent. Lord Royce and others questioned the council's choice to exile Jon. Whispers said a man who could kill a dragon queen shouldn't be sent away, he should be ruling. Some wanted Jon to return and take the throne by force. Others wanted him dead, truly dead this time. Robb crushed the letter in his fist. "They still want blood," he muttered. Arya, sitting across from him, leaned back. "Of course they do. Power doesn't disappear, it just changes hands." "And if they go north?" Robb asked quietly. Arya's smile was cold. "Then the north will remind them what fear feels like." Far beyond the wall, Jon stood at the edge of a frozen cliff. The wind howled around him. Below, the wildlings had begun to build something new. A village, a home. Jon didn't speak much these days, but his eyes said everything. He wasn't a king. He wasn't a hero. He was a man who had done what needed to be done and paid the price. That night, Ghost curled beside him. Jon stared up at the stars. He didn't know what lay ahead, but for the first time in a long while, he didn't feel like a prisoner. The night was cold, but Jon had grown used to it. The North didn't forgive, but at least it didn't lie. The chill was honest. It crept into your bones and stayed there, just like regret. He stood at the edge of the forest, watching the wildlings build. Children played near a frozen stream, women carried wood. Men carved stones for huts. They were rebuilding their world from the dirt. Just like him. Ghost padded silently behind him, eyes scanning the tree line. Then, the smell of smoke. Not the soft kind from campfires, the sharp, bitter scent of burning oil. Jon turned. Smoke curled up from the western ridge, not from inside their camp, from outside. Too controlled, too quiet. Moments later, a horn blew. Not a warning, a war cry. Jon sprinted toward the sound. As he reached the central clearing, Tormund was already shouting orders. "They've come through the mountain pass, armored riders, swords drawn." Jon narrowed his eyes. "Southmen?" Tormund nodded grimly. "Too clean, too sharp, not ours." Jon's face darkened. He knew who it was before the first arrow hit the wood beside him. Down the ridge came a banner, a black sun with a golden ring. House Blackfire. A name, long thought dead. A branch of the old Targaryen bloodline, exiled and shattered generations ago, but not forgotten. At the center of the riders was a tall man in silver armor, his face hidden behind a dragon helm. He raised a horn and shouted, "The Queen's death will be avenged. The traitor Jon Snow will die this night." Jon muttered, "Targaryen loyalists." Tormund snarled, "Old blood with too much pride and not enough brains." The wildlings took up arms quickly, forming a tight circle around their women and children. Spears, axes, whatever they had. Jon climbed a rock and raised his voice. "This is not your land. Turn back." The armored man removed his helm. He was young, maybe 25, with pale hair and violet eyes. "I am Aemon Blackfire, blood of the dragon. I ride not for land but justice. You killed Daenerys Stormborn, last of her line." "She killed thousands," Jon shouted back. "She burned a city to ashes." "She was a goddess made flesh," Aemon roared. "And you, a bastard in wolfskin, cut her down like a thief in the dark." Jon drew his sword. "You want justice? Come take it." The charge came hard. Steel on snow, fire on frost. The battle was short, but brutal. The wildlings fought with fury, but they were outnumbered and poorly armed. Jon moved through the chaos like a ghost sword flashing, cloak whipping behind him. Ghost tore into riders, dragging men from horses with a blood-curdling howl. Jon found Aemon in the chaos. The Dragon Knight swung with practiced grace, blade sharp as moonlight. Jon parried, their swords clashing with the weight of blood behind them. "You're no king," Aemon spat. Jon answered with steel. The two circled each other, boots crunching the snow stained with red. "You fight for ashes," Jon said. "And you run from your crown," Aemon growled. They clashed again. Blades screamed, sparks flew. Then Aemon slashed forward, grazing Jon's arm. Blood sprayed into the snow. Jon stumbled, but Ghost lunged, sinking teeth into Aemon's leg. Aemon screamed. Jon rose, sword high, and drove it through the young dragon's chest. The knight gasped, grabbing at the blade, eyes wide in shock. Jon whispered, "You followed a ghost, and now you'll become one." He pulled the blade free. Aemon fell, lifeless. The rest of the Blackfire men scattered, their courage gone. The battle was over. But something colder settled over the camp. Later, as they burned the bodies, Tormund stood beside Jon, shaking his head. "They won't be the last," he said. Jon nodded. "They're coming, one by one. Anyone who still believed in the Queen, anyone who wants my head." Tormund looked at him. "We should leave, go farther north, forget the South ever existed." Jon stared into the fire. "They'll follow me into the snow, into the sky if they have to. As long as I'm alive, they'll come." Tormund hesitated. "Then what do we do?" Jon turned to him. "I make a choice I've been running from too long." Tormund frowned. "What choice?" Jon's voice was quiet but firm. "I go south." The march south was silent. Jon rode alone this time. No banners, no titles, no crown. Just Ghost beside him, padding through the snow like a shadow. Behind him, the winds of the north howled like old gods, watching his every step. Tormund had begged him not to go. Even Arya's raven had arrived late, warning him to wait. But Jon knew deep in his bones, waiting never stopped a war. He crossed the wall under the full moon, past Castle Black, past abandoned villages, past the ghosts of everything he'd once protected. Each step south pulled at old wounds, the smell of ash, the faces of the dead, Daenerys' final breath. All of it clung to him like frostbite. When he reached Winterfell's gates, they opened slowly. Sansa stood there, cloaked in wolf fur, her red hair braided like a queen's. Her face didn't break, not for a smile, not for tears, only quiet, tired relief. "I thought we lost you," she said. Jon nodded. "You almost did." Inside the hall, Robb sat at the high table. Arya leaned near the fire, sharpening a dagger. Bran's chair stood empty, now his mind lost to something none of them understood anymore. He was more tree than boy these days. Robb stood slowly. "They're rising," he said, "in every corner. Dragon loyalists, Blackfire cousins, even old Lannister men wearing red again." "I killed one," Jon said. "A boy who wore armor and called himself Justice." Arya looked up. "They'll keep coming." Jon nodded. "Which is why I won't wait for the next blade at my back." Robb folded his arms. "So what's your plan? Ride into King's Landing with a ghost and a sword? What are you, Jon, a ghost story or a soldier?" Jon looked him in the eye. "I'm the man who ends this." 2 weeks later, the Raven arrived in King's Landing. To the Council of Seven, it said, From Jon Snow of the North. I come with no army, no banners, no claims, only a promise. I killed Daenerys because she was about to become the next tyrant. Now your cities whisper her name like she was a saint. I am not coming to rule. I am coming to end the game. Meet me at Dragon Pit. One last time. The Dragon Pit had once held beasts. Now it held power. They came, the new lords, the half-kings, the leftovers of old bloodlines. Yara Greyjoy, Samwell Tarly, Lord Gendry Baratheon, Edmure Tully, even the thin-faced Lord Royce of the Vale, all sat in silence as Jon stepped into the circle, Ghost by his side. No armor, no sword in hand, just him scarred, tired, and unshaking. "I'm not here to make threats," Jon said, voice calm. "I'm here to speak a truth none of you want to face." He looked at them all. "You're rebuilding the same world that burned." Murmurs, a few turned away, but none left. "You make councils, titles, voting chairs, but you're still fighting over the same rotten bones." Gendry spoke. "You expect us to just give it all up?" Jon shook his head. "No, I expect you to change. For real this time." He stepped forward. "There will always be someone. Some child of fire or forgotten heir or golden knight who claims the right to rule. And people will follow because they've been told to kneel since they were born." He looked at Sam. "You spoke of democracy once, a voice for all. Maybe you were right. Maybe it sounded foolish then, because no one had the courage to break the cycle." He looked at each face. "I don't want the throne. Burn it. Melt it again, if you have to. But I won't spend another year watching you play at peace while feeding the next war." Silence. Then, to Jon's surprise, Sam stood. "I vote to dissolve the crown." Gasps. Yara narrowed her eyes. "And replace it with what? A mob of farmers?" Sam met her stare. "With something new, with something better." Slowly, hands began to raise. Robb's, Gendry's, even Lord Royce. It wasn't perfect. It wasn't full. But it was enough. Jon turned to leave. "You're really going back north?" Arya asked, appearing beside him. "There's no throne for me here," he said. "Never was." She hugged him tight. "For once, then keep riding, and don't look back." Jon left the city as he had come, quiet, uncelebrated, and finally free. Behind him, the world began to shift, not with fire or war, but with the slow cracking of an ancient wheel. Ahead of him lay the snow, the forest, the wild. And the peace he had bled for. The Game of Thrones didn't end with a crown. It ended with a man who walked away from it.